Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to hang out with us today. Now, the very first thing that I'd like to do is just a quick sound check and make sure that everybody can hear me loud and clear. So if I could just get everybody to go ahead and open up the chat and just let us know where you're signing in from. Number one, it tells me that you can hear me loud and clear. And number two, it just lets us know where you're signing in from. So if you can go ahead and do that, that would be fantastic. So I see LA, I see Pennsylvania, Alabama, and the list just continues to go on. So it sounds like people can hear me. Hello, people from Canada. Perfect. That is awesome. Thank you so much for that. So basically today we are here to unleash our new screen and actually officially unveil that to everybody on this call. So we are going to be talking about leveraging the new purchase and sales screens, and let's hop right into that. So the very first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to introduce myself to people who don't know me already. My name is Ryan Bonnet, and I am a customer relations team manager here at Finale. I've been working here for about 2.5 years. And one thing that's really interesting about me is that I was actually a customer of Finale Inventory for about 3 years before coming and joining the team. And we also have Luis. He's actually our lead engineer and the person who is responsible for our brand new screen. Luis, you want to jump in and say hi really quick?
Hey, hello. This is Luis. Very happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And he's been working at Finale for 6 years now. And one cool thing about Luis is that he was the second engineer to join the team. And, he's a very tenured employee and pretty much involved in everything that we do here. So let's move into our next slide, which is going to be talking about what are we doing today. Well, today is going to be a quick introduction in terms of the agenda. We're going to talk about the new purchase and sales screens. That's going to be about 15 minutes. The next thing we're going to do is go into a short demonstration of those new screens, and that's going to be about 20 to 25 minutes. And then the very last thing that we'll do is we're going to go ahead and do a question and answer period so that we can go ahead and answer anything if there is from all of the audience. So let's go ahead and jump into exactly what we're talking about today. Now, first, what you're going to see here is an image of our older, what we like to call the legacy, in this case, the purchase screen, although the sales order screen was almost identical in terms of the way that it looked. Now, to address the elephant in the room, this particular screen, some customers may not actually be familiar with. Customers that were signed on to Finale from July forward actually have been using the new screen exclusively. So if you're a little bit confused as to what this screen actually is, maybe you've never seen it before, that's exactly why you've been exclusively using the new screen since you signed on as a Finale user. Now, people who have been around for longer than July, which is likely most of you on this call, this is the screen that you're probably used to. You may be still using it right now, or maybe you've actually transitioned to using our newer screen. But again, the purpose of this presentation is to talk about the transition from this screen, which has limited order information, limited shipment information, and in our opinion, a general lack of functionality in terms of what it actually was, and now officially unveiling the newer screen, which a lot of people are familiar with now. Thousands of Finale customers have been using this for quite some time. And now, like I said today, we're excited to officially announce this as the purchase and sales screen for Finale Inventory. Now, there are some major differences between the two screens, and that's exactly what we're going to be covering today. One is going to be the amount of information that's available on the screen. The second is the actual screen functionality itself. And third is the overall design of the screen as well. And these screens are packed with so many features, and that's why we're really excited to chat about this with you today. Now, at Finale, we have many core values, but a few of them that directly tie to our conversation today are the three that you're seeing on your screen. So one is continuous improvement. We're always trying to push the product forward. Two is making decisions based on customer feedback. And that's something that we do at Finale for everything that we do. We try to make customer-driven decisions by using customer feedback to drive what we actually do. And then the last one, and this is extremely important to us, is providing a world-class customer experience. Now, whenever we do something at Finale, we always want to make sure we lean into our customers and talk to them about, hey, what do you like about what we currently have? What are the things that you enjoy about it? What are the things that you don't like, for example? And in terms of our legacy screen, we got feedback that tied into 4 specific categories, and we're going to go through those specific categories of feedback today. So in regards to our legacy purchase and sales screens, one was it looks and feels old and is not intuitive. Many customers have told us that over the years, and leading into this project, that was one of our main themes. Number 2, common tasks and order workflows are slow and inefficient. And that's something that we'll be able to point out today and draw the comparison between the old screen and the new. Lack of order information in the purchase and sales screen. And customers and Finale members ourselves, we know that order information and having information at your fingertips is of the utmost importance, so we can drive decisions quicker and drive action quicker. And lastly, and this is actually one of the big ones for me, is the undesired necessity to leave the screen to perform tasks. So that was a huge one. Anytime you wanted to do things that were very common, creating a supplier, creating a product, many other things, you needed to leave the screen to actually do that. So now moving into, well, what did we want to do for our new screen? So 4 main drivers in these 4 categories are what we specifically looked at when we were looking internally and talking about what did we want to make this screen do. So the first one, and it's very simple, more intuitive user experience with a modern screen design. So again, addressing that looks and feels old point that many of our customers have made. The second is executing order operations and common tasks within the main screen. And if you remember, that's something that's near and dear to my heart. I like to keep in one streamlined process, stay on one screen, and many Finale customers like to do the exact same thing. The third, which is also extremely important, is having more insightful information to help the users make decisions. So massive, the more information that you have, especially in one place, the faster you can drive a decision. And then lastly, and this is more of an internal Finale point, which is we want to make sure that we can release future enhancements faster so that we can respond to your feedback quickly. And that's something that we like to do. And that's what really drove the last part of this project, which we'll talk about later in this presentation. So let's jump in and dive into that very first point, which is the more intuitive user experience. So number 1, with our new screen, and right now I'm talking about the new screens in terms of what it can do. So 80% of order workflows can be completed within the same screen, i.e. the main screen is what we talked to you about. So no longer do you need to leave that screen to do things like shipping and receiving, billing and invoicing, among many others. Creating products without leaving the main screen. This one is massive and a huge improvement for Finale. A lot of times on our older legacy screens, you would need to leave and actually create that product and then come back to the purchase order, which in a lot of cases just slowed down the workflow, made it more inefficient, and made you click around a lot more. And that's what we try to eliminate within Finale. Same exact thing, same point as for products. We can now create customers and suppliers without leaving the main screen. So if you need to make a sale to a new customer, if you are getting products from a new supplier, you can go ahead and create those on the fly. And then lastly, and this is more in regards to repetitive workflows or things that need to be recreated in terms of purchase orders or sales orders, is something we call advanced order operations. And that makes repetitive tasks faster than ever. And that's something that we'll jump into as well. Now, moving on to the next point, which is executing order operations within the same screen. This is something that we'll talk about today and show you in our demonstration, but to give you a quick and easy overview now, and we'll draw your attention to the right side of that slide, which is what we call a sidecar. But essentially now you have the ability to ship and receive. You have advanced functionality for partial shipment. So if you're looking at that sidecar, what you will see is that big blue button that says receive purchase order. So no longer, again, do you have to jump into the shipment screen in order to receive something. You can do so directly from the main screen. And if you're looking at that blue button to the right side of that with the blue triangle, that is the advanced functionality for partial shipments. So you can go ahead and jump in and just do a partial very quickly, very easily. And again, we'll show you that in our demo today. The next sidecar is what you're going to see is billing and invoicing. Again, the main theme here is not leaving a screen to go ahead and do something. So we can actually do a bill directly from the main screen in a purchase or sales order, or we can also do an invoice if you're on the sales order side. And lastly, again, in the theme of keeping everybody in a single screen, a single view, is being able to do returns without actually having to go to a brand new screen to actually do that. So again, the common theme here is let's keep our Finale users, our power users in a single view so that they can complete their work more efficiently, more effectively. And ultimately, that's the biggest thing that we wanted to provide here with our new screen. Now, again, driving action quicker with more information. So this is talking about having more information in a single view so that you're not leaving and constantly doing, going to other screens, printing reports, different things like that to understand what's actually happening with your orders. So we'll talk about order information, shipment information, and in addition to that, our bill information. So again, if we'll draw your attention to the right side of that presentation, what you'll see is our order information card. So now at this point, what you'd be able to see is the status, the shipment status is fully received, partial, and in addition to that, our bill status, which is super important. And again, right below that, the guiding light is going to be those blue buttons, and that gives us the ability to put it back into a draft, the committed, or possibly even cancel that order directly from the sidecar. Now, when we're talking about shipment information, this is a massive one for Finale. Previously, and again, we'll get into this when we get into our demonstration, you just had one message and one message only. And all that said was partially received, for example, or fully received. Well, now with Finale's new purchase and sales order screens, you have access to a sidecar that's going to tell you exactly what's going on with those shipments. Shipment number 1, for example, received on December 2nd. Shipment number 2, received on December 12th. We can understand how many shipments it took to get our purchase or our sales order in or out the door. And lastly, the same, very similar to our shipment information, now within a single view, you'll be able to see and understand what is happening on the bill or invoice side of things. So ultimately, what you'll be able to see is, in this case, a bill that's posted for $655, for example, and then a subsequent second bill that is also in a posted status. And if it was in any other status, like editable, for example, or draft rather, that's exactly what you would see on this screen. So let's talk about some more information and how we put this information directly at your fingertips. So the first one we'll talk about is being able to view units that are received or shipped within that single view. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring up an image. And this image is something that most of us are going to be aware of. This is directly from our purchase and our sales screens. And this particular one is from a purchase screen. And the one thing that I'd love to draw your attention to is these two brand new columns that were all in relation to the project of creating the new purchase and sales screen. So we have quantity received unit and quantity not received. So what you'll be able to see very quickly, again, within the main screen and not leaving to go somewhere else, is what have I received so far? And in this case, it's 60 and 62 units respectively. And then the second one is what have I not received? And that's a powerful thing. We don't want users to be clicking around and going to all these different screens. We want to put that view and that information directly in front of you. So again, you can make decisions faster. Now, taking that away, let's talk about that second point, which is product and order warnings. So hopping in, the first image that you're going to see here is the legacy sales screen warning. Very cryptic warning, and I'll draw your attention to the right side of the screen. You will see 10, which is highlighted in red. Now, to many Finale inventory users, we know what that means. It means that we don't have enough stock to fulfill the order, or for example. Now, cryptic warning, and we wanted to eliminate that. So bring us into our next image, and this is going to be coming directly from the new sales screen. And if we draw your attention to the left side, what now you'll notice, if something is not available to ship, you are going to get that warning, which is the red circle with the cross through it. But you'll also get what's called a tooltip when you hover over the product or the warning. And in this particular case, Finale is specifically telling us that we have 0 in stock at our East warehouse and we have -10 units available. So, number one, that's super important for any user, but especially when it comes to users who have multiple locations. So, if you can't fulfill something from one facility, Finale is going to go ahead and tell you that immediately, and you can go ahead and make the decision to fulfill that from another facility, for example. And lastly, which is the second part of that second point, is order warnings. And there's many different order warnings. I'm just showing you one in this particular presentation right now. And this is coming from our purchase order. So what we can see from top to bottom in that image is that we are in a committed status, although we are fully received and fully billed. So Finale in that big orange box is telling us specifically, this is fully received and billed, and we recommend that you put this into a completed status. Now, again, that is just one order warning that we have available, but there are many to guide our users and let them know exactly what they should be doing, or in other words, what Finale recommends that we do whenever you get into a particular case. Now, when it comes to future screen enhancements, these particular screens are built on modern screen technology. Our previous legacy screens were built on a lot older of technology. And what that specifically means to you, the user, is that now with this new modern technology, we have the ability to faster implement screen enhancements. And in addition to that, we can go ahead and respond to customer feedback more quickly. So in other words, if we have an idea that directly came from our customers or within Finale internally, we can go ahead and build these things quicker and release them to our customers. And the biggest things is we always want to put the newest, latest, and greatest in your hands faster. And that was the main point of trying to build a couple of these screens in terms of Finale's internal wants and needs. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about what we did in the beta stage. So when we're talking about the beta stage and these new screens, we released the initial beta in April of 2022. So it's been quite some time since we've actually initially released that. Now, we started out with a small rollout. We always start things a little bit small. We gauge how it goes, and then we move and increase thereafter. So in this case, we started with a 10% rollout to our customers, and then we increased from there. Now, at this time, when we're talking today, this screen is in use by thousands of customers. And with those thousands of customers that have been using this screen exclusively, we've taken feedback all along the way, made small adjustments, and now we're ready to, again, officially release the screen as Finale's new purchase and sales screen. Now, is there small adjustments that we can continue to make in the future? Absolutely. And now, like I said in the previous slide, we have the ability to make enhancements quicker, faster, and get them into our customers' hands, like I said, fast. Now, last point here in terms of this slide is currently we are wrapping up this beta program for the screen. So ultimately, that leads me into my next point, and that is, what is the final stage of this rollout plan? What do you need to know as a Finale user? Well, all Finale inventory accounts will be migrated to these new purchase and sales screens by mid-January 2023. So coming up fairly soon, within the next few weeks. Legacy screens, i.e. the older purchase and sales screens, to make that clear, will no longer be available to Finale customers. So those will be going away and all customers will be migrated to the new purchase and sales screens. All Finale accounts currently have access to these new views. So if you have not opted into the beta program, for example, you could do so right after this meeting if you like. Everybody has access to this at this time, and we're happy to help you with that. Now, again, I've said it a little bit early in the presentation, but new users who have signed on from July 27th forward, they actually never had access to the legacy screens, and they were exclusively on the new screens immediately upon joining Finale. So again, a lot of customers that are new may not understand and know what that legacy screen was about. We will show that off today a little bit to put a little bit of contrast between the new and old screen. And then lastly, and this is one point that I wanted to make, is that Finale is always happy to help you transition to the next screen. So if you need assistance, if you need training on how to use it, that's something that we're always happy to do. And all you need to do is reach out to our service line or use the help button in the top right corner of your Finale account. Now, with that being said, we are ready to jump in and dive directly into the presentation of the new purchase and sales screen. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera off, and we are going to dump and dive right in. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead, and I'm just going to do a quick little screen refresh here, and we'll jump right in. So again, starting out directly at the Finale inventory home screen, we are going to go in and jump right into our purchases. Now, from here, I already have something queued up that we'll go ahead and look at. And this particular order is in a not received status. Let's go ahead and open this up. So as you can see, this is already ready to go. We have our sidecar information, like I was talking about in our presentation. We have all of our order information already ready to go. And this is the first thing that we're going to start and show off is the quantity received units, for example. So what we can see right here, that this is a not received PO. So clearly what we're going to see is nothing has been received. Nothing's been received. And we can see exactly what we still need to do here. Now, we are going to start out with a very, very basic receive. And this means that we are going to take everything in at one time. It's not a partial. This is everything's came from our supplier. So the very first thing that we can go ahead and do with our sidecars here is receive this purchase order. So again, this is me showing a basic. So everything showed up. We can go ahead and click receipt. Now, what you're going to notice is that a modal has popped up with some options. I can go ahead and change the date of the shipment if required. I can go ahead and tell Finale where I'm putting this in my warehouse, for example, as well as filling out some other information, which is going to be my carrier. Let's just say it was FedEx. And lastly, I'm just going to go in and drop in a quick shipment tracking code. So that's all that needs to be done. People that were on the legacy screen understand sometimes how painful it was to go ahead and do that. You'd have to leave the screen, for example. Let's just go ahead and show you how easy it is. So I can go ahead and just click received shipment. And the one thing that I'll do is hop into my shipments tab and just highlight the fact that we fill in our fields of carrier, we fill in our fields of tracking number. And then in addition to that, our shipment and sublocations were also auto-filled in. Now, what happened on the main screen? Well, on the main screen, again, obviously our quantity received and not received has been updated. We can see that the entire PO has been received, and that is also, again, reflected in our order information sidecar, fully received. And the only thing left to do, and what we're going to notice here, is that the blue button is going to be our guiding light. And what I mean by that is this is what's telling you what is the next logical step, what needs to be done next. So in this case, it's going to be billing the purchase order. So let's go ahead and do that. Same thing. A modal pops up for you to go ahead and fill in information wherever you see required. So whether you want to add a reference, change the supplier, possibly, you can just go ahead and bill that purchase order immediately. So again, once we've done that, we can see our sidecar information with the shipment received today. We can see our bill, which was billed in full, and that has been done on this particular screen. And then the last thing that we have to do here, and again, the blue button is going to be our guiding light, is complete the PO. And as you've seen in the presentation, this orange box here is telling us exactly what Finale recommends. And I'm going to go ahead and do so. So let's go ahead and complete that purchase order. So obviously, I just went and did that in one big swoop. Typically, there's different time components, maybe different people that are involved. But as simple as that, from the main screen, you can go ahead and receive, you can bill, you can complete without leaving the single view. Now, that situation right there is what I would call a perfect world situation. Everything came in, there was no issue, but that's not always the case. So let's go ahead and try something that's a little bit more advanced. And what that would be is a partial shipment. But in doing so, I'd like to go ahead and show a little bit of contrast between the older legacy screen and the new Finale screen. So I'm going to bring over another Finale account, and I'm going to go ahead and create a PO using our legacy screen just to highlight the differences between the two, and we'll perform that exact same operation. So let's go ahead and do that. So looking at our screen, and I'll just make this a little bit bigger so everybody can see, is we're going to go ahead and go into our purchase. Now, from here, we're in our list view, and I'll go ahead and create a new one. And we'll use a system generated ID here. So again, users that are newer to Finale, i.e. after July, they may have not seen this screen, so this might be completely new to you. But again, showing you the contrast between what was and what will be. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's open up our supplier box. And what I can see is that I don't have the supplier that I'm looking for. I'm actually working with somebody new. So step one, we've already hit a roadblock. So let's go ahead and add our supplier. So we need to go to the supplier screen. We can click create supplier. And then now we are in our trusty supplier screen where I can go ahead and add somebody. So let's just go ahead and add something. The good supply for just making it up. And then ultimately we would have to fill out some more information. I'm just going to keep things simple, and I'm going to add an address. So 123 any street. We're going to go into the city. Today we're going to be in Aspen. And we're going to use Colorado. Now let's go ahead and add a postal code. And then lastly, let's go ahead and add the country. So again, that's all the information I need. I could add a lot more, but let's go ahead and leave it at that. So I've saved my changes. And then now let's go ahead and go back to our purchase that we are playing with. So here it is right here. So now that I've went ahead and done so, I can open this up. And then I can see that I have my good supply code. Fantastic. We have our supplier. We can go ahead and fill out any other information that we need, maybe term, requested shipping possibly, custom fields. I'll leave that be. And then ultimately, let's go ahead and start adding some products to our order. So I'm just going to grab some products here. Let's add 100, 101, 102, for example. And then now I'm at a point where I need to add a new product. This is something new that I want to buy. So again, we hit a roadblock with our older screen. And this is something where you would need to go ahead and save, for example. And then now we need to go ahead and create our new product. So again, leaving the screen to perform very common tasks, creating a supplier, and in this case, creating a product. So here we are here. We've in our product details screen, we have product 103. And let's go ahead and add a description. Alcohol wipes. And ultimately, I'm going to add a category. And that will be medical supplies. So again, very, very basic information. You can go ahead and add more, but to keep things very simple, we'll keep it at that. And ultimately, we'll save that and jump back into our purchase. Now, from here, you may have prices already set up. I'm just going to add something silly here. So at 10, 20, and 30 for that particular product, I'm going to go ahead and add the product that I just created. Here's our alcohol wipes. And lastly, let's go ahead and add just a random price here. So we can go ahead and do so. And then now, very common in workflows is let's go ahead and add some freight and possibly tax, because you always need to go ahead and pay that. So again, clicking this link here, we haven't hit a roadblock this time, but we do need to go ahead and go to a different screen. So let's go ahead and add our freight. I'm going to say that is $40. And then lastly, we're going to have to go in and add our tax, and that's just going to pull from that percentage. So once I've done so, there's my adjustments on this older screen. Again, continuously needing to leave the screen to do something every time you hit that quote unquote roadblock on the older screen. Now, from here, we can go ahead and mark that purchase committed. And we can see right here, there's very, very limited information. We have a committed order. We're not received. We have no bill posted. So let's go ahead, again, using a real world situation. Let's go and receive this in partial. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to edit the shipment. I am going to say we've received 1 and 1, and I'm going to put this into A1. So once I've done so, I'm happy with this. I can add my carrier if I had one. I can go ahead and add a tracking number if I'd like, but ultimately I can receive this particular shipment. Now from here, going back to the purchase screen, I can absolutely see that this is partial. But how many shipments were there? What was received? What wasn't received? None of this information I can see from this particular view. The only thing that I can see is that, hey, I need to add a shipment, but I don't even know what, for example. So again, that second shipment comes in, it hits your dock, your receivers go ahead and they open that up. So let's go ahead and add that shipment, and let's just keep it simple. And let's say that we just went ahead and we received the rest of that order. So I'm just going to hit this button here, although you could fill it in manually. So let's hit that button. Let's leave the carrier and the tracking alone, and let's go ahead and receive that shipment. So ultimately from here, we can go back to our purchase and we can see that this is fully received. Now, aside from that, we would also need to create our bill. We always need to pay for what we went ahead and purchased. So again, clicking our blue button, it's a very similar. We guide you through with these buttons. However, big difference, we are making you leave the screen. So ultimately, we can see our products are here. We can make some edits. I'm going to go ahead and just post it. But essentially, you're getting the point. The point is you constantly need to leave the screen to do anything. And a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about here is super common. Creating a supplier, creating new product, adding adjustments, for example. And again, not a lot of information that we see here. And a lot of users have the issue of just leaving things in committed status because they did not understand, what to do next, or they didn't do what Finale recommends. And what we always recommend is marking that purchase completed. So ultimately, what we're seeing here is completed, fully received, fully billed, but that's it. You don't get anything else. That is the legacy screen. So again, let's drop this out. Let's talk about what Finale has in store for us now on the new screen. So what I'm going to do to make that contrast real is let's do that exact same operation with no differences, for example. So ultimately, what we can see is let's go ahead and create that PO. We'll use a system generated ID. And then now, again, we'll show you the contrast. So let's start from step one. We're going to go ahead and create our supplier. So again, click this button, pop up with our modal, and we can just go ahead and start plugging in information. So same exact thing. Let's buy from Good Supply Corp. Let's add an address, 123 Any Street. Let's add our city, Aspen. Let's add the state, Colorado. And then ultimately, I'm going to add in the postal code. So I can go ahead and add a lot more information than that if I so choose. I'm just going to keep it simple the same way I did on the other PO. Here's my supplier. Once we have our supplier up, again, immediately you're going to see the ship from location drop in line. We can go ahead and add a lot more information, and it's a lot different. We have a date modal, terms, the same thing. I want to keep things exactly the same. Address info, custom fields as you so choose. And ultimately, let's get down to our products. So again, let's just start plugging in what we have. 100. Here's 101, 102. And then lastly, here's that product where we're like, hey, roadblock, I need to go ahead and add something new. Well, guess what? Here is the new create new product inline modal. So again, we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on that. That's going to open up our product modal. We can use a system generated ID, very similar to the way you've always been able to do it. And ultimately, we can go ahead and add a use entered product ID. So I'm going to go ahead again. Let's do the exact same thing. I have product ID 103. And then in addition to that, I'm going to go ahead and add our alcohol wipes. And ultimately, the exact same function. Let's add that to medical supplies and create that product. So from here, you can go ahead, and this is something that we are releasing as well, is being able to drop that product directly in line. So what you'll notice, and I'll actually click off of it, is right now it's not going to be adding it immediately, but the imminent change that we are making, this is already in production, is the ability to go ahead and drop that in line. So similar to what you see of just me just doing it right there, that's going to happen automatically for you. And again, let's go add some quantities. And here we go. we have our quantities in there. Now, the last thing to put a contrast from the legacy screen to the new screen is going to be our new modal for adding discounts and fees. So here's our freight. Let's just go ahead and add our $40, for example. And ultimately, we'll go ahead and add our tax, which again is going to just pull from our percentage. So we're here, we're ready. We have our full purchase order ready to go. And we're going to go ahead and change the status to committed. So again, we never had to leave the screen at all to do anything. And for power users within Finale, that's extremely important. Every time you need to leave the screen to go do something, that's when you may get caught off track. You may not know where to go back to. You may have not taken notice of what that PO number is, for example. Keeping you in the same screen is going to make your workflow way more efficient and way more effective. So ultimately, let's go ahead and do the exact same transaction of receiving in partial. So a new feature that you never had access to on the older screen is something where you can go ahead and select the items that you have received. So again, we got our pallet, for example, from our supplier. Our receivers open that up. And now we're going to go ahead and receive these two particular products. Again, we can see what we have not received directly from this screen. And we can also see what has been received. So in this case, this is the very first shipment. And what you'll notice is now we have a button that's a little bit different. So let's go ahead and just unselect that for a sec. So we can see that now we can receive the purchase order in full with this button. Or if we just go ahead and click two of them, we can go ahead and create shipment with selection. And once we do that, we'll have a pop-up modal. We can say, yep, let's add that new shipment. And ultimately, that is going to autofill. Make some changes if you'd like, fill in your carry and tracking if you'd like, but ultimately just receive the shipment. Now, again, let's just say, a few days have gone by and the supplier is going to go ahead and send us the rest of our shipment, or maybe a partial again, if you want to go and auto select. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm just going to go ahead and add our new shipment. And again, pop-up modal brings us directly into that shipment. Auto fills for us. We can change the numbers if we'd like. We can change the sublocation if we'd like. But ultimately, all we're doing is receiving that shipment. So from here, what we're going to see, again, showing our information. Those two shipments that we just created are now here in our sidecar. So if we're gonna ultimately see what is not received and received, and what we're seeing right now is that we're received in full. But ultimately, again, all the information, like I said, is right in front of you. So lastly, let's go ahead and build that purchase order, and we can build that directly from this screen. You don't need to leave. We're going to post that bill. We're going to tell you what that bill's for. If there was a partial, if you need to do something else, absolutely. You have the same functionality as you always have with the bill. But ultimately, you can go ahead and complete it. Again, modal that explains what is Finale's recommendation. So ultimately, that's what you're going to see when you're on a brand new screen with Finale. A lot more functionality, a lot more information, and you'll have the ability to execute what we call order operations directly in screen. And again, more efficient, more effective. Now, we've been talking about the purchase screen for quite some time, but all of those features that we had available on the purchase screen are also absolutely available on the sales screen. So one thing I wanted to draw your attention to is the shipment status. This is a partially shipped order. We can see that it's in a committed status. And when we open up this particular order, again, this is something that I've already pre-done for us, is we can see, again, the side cards on the sales screen. All of that functionality that you saw on the purchase screen is absolutely available on the sales screen. So whatever you can do on one, you can absolutely do on the other. Now, again, coming down through these side cards really quickly is the status. We can see our partially shipped shipment status, partially invoiced. Coming down into our shipments, we can see how many shipments have taken place. And directly in regards to shipments, I wanted to draw your attention again to the quantity shipped and the quantity not shipped. So immediately, without leaving this view, you can see exactly what is shipped, exactly what hasn't been shipped. And now you can make that decision way faster. You understand what you need to do without going somewhere else and leaving to go to another screen. So ultimately, that's going to be put right in front of you. And very similar, invoice information is right here in the side card, extremely similar to what the bill information is. Now, again, the last point that I wanted to make here in regards to the sales screen is going to be that warning. Whether you hover here or you hover here, it really doesn't matter. You're going to see exactly why there's an issue with this product. And in this particular case, we don't have any stock of it in our East warehouse. We have negative 50 units available. And this is, again, right in front of you. So you don't need to go somewhere else. You don't need to understand our older cryptic warning that was just a red highlight. This is telling you exactly what the issue is. So again, the big theme here is driving decisions quicker by having information directly in front of the users. And as we all know, as people on this call, the faster that you can make decisions, the faster you're going to be able to drive action. And that, again, is one of the main things that we wanted to do with these screens. So with that being said, again, this was a very quick overview, a very quick demonstration of what the difference is between those two screens and a lot of the benefits that we have with the new screen in general. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. I'm going to go and turn my video back on, and we can hop directly into the question and answer period. So let me go ahead and do that. And I'll stop sharing. And let's just talk a little bit about question and answer ground rule. So very quickly, what you'll notice at the bottom of your screen is there is a question and answer button. Please go ahead and use that. That's just going to make sure that we see all of your questions and we'll be able to answer them. Anything that is a duplicate, just to make sure that we are efficient in getting through all the questions, we will just ignore. But again, we're going to try to get through everything. And if in fact we don't get through all of the questions, we will make sure that we go ahead and send out some answers to those as well in our follow-up. And lastly, you will absolutely get a recording of this particular webinar after it concludes. So with that being said, if everybody that has a question can just use that question and answer button, that would be fantastic. And we're going to go ahead and get that started. And let me just go ahead and open up that. Perfect. All righty. So let's go ahead and start. So the very first question is, will this workflow still work if we don't use billing feature, or does each step need to be completed to move to the next step? So the answer is no. You do not need to use the bill feature if you don't actually use that in your workflow. There is no necessity to use the billing feature if you don't need it. Now, Finale will still add the blue button to the bill, as that's typically the logical next step. However, it is not required. You can go ahead and complete that immediately. The next question is, are there any improvements related to the purchasing tab, improving forecasting for Amazon FBA transfers? So this isn't in regard to this particular project for us, although pushing our Amazon integration forward is something that we're super interested in, and that's something that we can talk about at another time. The next question is, what does changing the status to committed do? That's a great question. That's a Finale fundamental. Whenever you commit an order, that is going to go ahead and put on order units. If we're talking about a purchase order, or if we're talking about a sales order, it's going to reserve the product that you are selling. So that's exactly what that committed status does on both the purchase and sales side. So the next question is, if we choose only 2 items, will it only bill those 2? Another part of that question is, can you create a bill of each PO shipment? Those are very great questions, and I'll answer those in sequence. So the first part of that is, if you have 2 items, can you only bill those 2? The answer is, when you click that bill button, it will add everything that's on the bill, but you can absolutely edit that, take away any adjustments, i.e., freight fees, taxes, or products for example, and you can remove those if those are not to be on the bill. But directly related to the second part of your question, which is, can you create a bill for each PO shipment? The answer is absolutely. In our shipment screen, there is a button that says add bill for shipment. And if that's something that you've had trouble finding, please reach out to service@finaleinventory.com and we can show you exactly how that function works. But yes, you can create a bill for each PO shipment, and the Finale will drop only the products that were actually received or shipped onto that bill or invoice. The next question is, how will the negative stock warning look in the scanner? So the scanner does not change in regard to this particular project. Whenever you scan something and it's out of stock, it will absolutely it'll tell you, it's the wrong item, or it will tell you that you don't have any units. But in terms of the project of the purchase and sales screen, it has no effect on the scanner warnings. Next question. Is the shipment tab in purchase orders editable in the UI with the screen update? So the answer is yes. If you do not want to use the button that is on the main screen, you can absolutely still go to the shipments tab. It's still available. It's at the top left of your screen as always. And you can absolutely go ahead and use that yourself if you'd like. Otherwise, you can absolutely use the button from the main screen. And it looks like there's a second part of that question about Excel imports. And yes, you can still receive or ship product with a spreadsheet. You will need to enter the shipments tab to do that particular action. The next question is, some of our received shipments require additional touches like folding the apparel or labeling individual items. Is there a way to document those additional touches when receiving the shipment? So the answer is no at this time, where we don't document additional activities such as folding the clothes or different things like that. But you still have access to Finale's label generator, for example, and that particular function you can still use, and that is available directly on the main screen in the label menu. So yes, you can absolutely do that. But to the answer of additional workflows that are specific to your business, the answer is no. The next question is, will you get a warning to complete the PO after you receive the shipment if you don't utilize the billing function? So the answer is no at this time, although, again, customer feedback is something that we love to get because that's how we drive this product forward. So that's a great observation. And a lot of customers may not use that billing feature, although customers that are using QuickBooks absolutely do. But if you are not one of those, that's a great observation. And thank you for that. The next one is dropship related, and it looks like this is a few different parts. So I'm just going to go ahead and answer these in sequence. So the first part of this is, how does it work with a dropship sales order from an e-commerce sales channel? That's a fantastic question, and there's a great feature for that we have on the sales screen that we didn't show in this presentation. And if you remember that multi-select, you can go ahead and select the specific products that you want to dropship from a sales order and create a purchase order with only that product. That was not a feature that was available on the older legacy screen, but absolutely is a feature in our new screen. So yes, you can specifically select a product that you want to drop ship and create a purchase order for that. The next part of that dropship related question is, do you plan on linking sales orders and purchase orders for dropship? The answer is, this is something we've absolutely discussed. It's not something that was built in terms of where the screens are today. But again, feedback is massive for us. And if that's something that a lot of customers are looking for, which I do know that that's an important feature, that's something that we're absolutely willing to take a look at. And the last part of this dropship series of questions for all of our users here is, how does the new screen handle dropships? Can you use it to manage dropships for purchases such as receiving, invoicing, and splitting shipments? The answer is all the same features that you had previously in regards to dropship, aside from the create selection that I was just describing in the last question. All of those exact same features are the same. So I'm hoping that answers that question for you. Moving on to the next question. So on the sales screen, there's no drop-down option for reserving product. How do you reserve product for a sales order? So there's a great answer to that question. Now, number one, committing the order is a great way to reserve product, for example, on a sales order. That is the function that's always worked within Finale. I believe what you're referencing is something that we had on our legacy screen, and that's something we've actually been talking about in our engineering meetings. So that may be something that's going to be re-released. So thank you for that question. And yes, we're absolutely thinking about that one. Next question is, will you get a warning to complete the PO after you receive the shipment if you don't use? So that's the same question before, and I'll answer that really quickly. The answer is absolutely. You can go ahead and complete the order without a bill. It's not mandatory, although you will not receive the warning. Let's see. So the next question is, can inventory bills be pushed to QuickBooks Online for payment without pushing sales income? So basically, when you're pushing a bill over to QuickBooks, it's going to push the bill in its entirety of what's actually on that particular bill. Now, it's not going to tie in your sales income. I hope I'm understanding your question correctly. Although if I did not answer that correctly in terms of what you meant by the question, absolutely email us at service@finaleinventory.com, and we'd be happy to help you out with that. The next question is, when you are receiving different lines of a PO into different sublocation, does the screen show you which locations you already have a specific inventory in? That's a great question. And the functionality hasn't actually changed. So when you go ahead and receive, let's just say a partial, or you're just entering the shipments tab specifically, you can always see with a drop down on the left side of that, where you can see exactly where all of your products are already. That function never changed. It's still there and still available. And again, if you need help seeing where that is, do not hesitate to email service@finaleinventory.com. The next question is, can two users edit the same order simultaneously? The answer is yes to that. You can still join into multiple orders at the same time. The next question is there a feature that enables you to create pop-up reminders for sales orders that need to be released for shipping on a certain date? The answer to that, at least at this point, is no. It's not a functionality that's been built in. But again, the same common theme that I've been talking about this entire time is feedback is so important for us. That's exactly how we drive this particular screen and all screens forward. So if you're passionate about that, that's something that you should definitely let us know about, and I'm going to take a note for that. But no, there's no pop-up reminders for sales orders that need to be released. The next question is there a way to add discounts per line item instead of as a discount to the whole PO? The answer for that is that hasn't changed yet. That is something that is still, whenever you create an adjustment, and just to make it clear for everybody, whenever there's an adjustment like a freight fee or some customs duties, different things like that, it will still apply to the entire order. Although that piece of feedback is something we have taken in quite a lot. So that's, again, things that we have talked about in engineering meetings, and it's something that we definitely need to look into and possibly change. The next question is it possible to do partial receiving using the scanner and sync it to Finale? The answer is yes. That function never changed with the new screens. The way that the scanner interacts with the system is always the same. The project that we're discussing today had no bearing on that. So I'm hoping I'm answering that question for you correctly. But yes, there has been no changes between how the scanner reacts with Finale in general. The next question is, what is the effective date for the changeover? So that's something we covered in our presentation, but to reiterate it again, in mid-January 2023, so essentially next month, all accounts will be migrated over to the new screens, and the legacy purchase and sale screens will not be available for use. So that is when the changeover will be, and we will make sure to notify all users with some broadcast messages that these screens will be going away. So you will know exactly when that is, and we'll make sure to notify everybody when that actually happens, so you're not caught off guard. This question here we have is, sometimes I find myself editing a PO and hitting save, but then not marking it committed. Is there any way to get a notice of POs that are sitting in an editable status and therefore not reserving unit? So the answer is that is not a capability of the sales or the PO screen when you're in an editable, or in other words, the draft status and a committed status. There's no mechanism for us to tell you that. And that is by design. And the specific reason for that is a lot of customers are working on POs in editable status. So having a notification that just continuously tells you you're working on POs isn't something that we enabled. Although I do understand exactly what your question is, and committing it would be the best case of action for you. Now, let's just see if there's any other questions that come in. We do have a few minutes left. I've gone through everything we have so far. If there's any other questions, please ensure that you add them, and I'll be happy to go ahead and answer them. Again, I'll just give another minute here. So here's another, a little bit of a statement, but I'll kind of answer the question here. So Chris mentioned, and when we say Chris, that's our CTO, our head engineer here. But Chris mentioned we're working on speeding up the system in the new view. When the new view is implemented, will the speed improvements be implemented at the same time? So the answer is yes. We're constantly working on speed within Finale. It's not just this screen, it's with anything that we do here. Obviously, as we know, in this day and age and in this business, speed, efficiency, having information at your fingertips is so important to businesses. So the answer is yes to that particular question. And we're able to do that. Okay. And I'll just give one more minute here to see if there's any last ones. Okay. And okay, here we go. So if a product is incorrectly received using the new device, can the shipment be edited on the web? So I believe this is a scanner related question in terms of how it reacts with Finale. And again, just to make it very clear, the project that we are working on, which is for the new purchase and sale screen, does not have any action or relation to how the scanner works with it. But to answer your question absolutely directly, whenever you go ahead and receive something on the scanner, it's going to either receive it or put it into some sort of a pack status, depending on your setting. Now, when you're in the actual web browser itself, you would likely need to cancel that shipment, depending on the status, and then go ahead and add a new one. If you're syncing as editable, and most customers don't in terms of how they interact with the scanner and the web browser, that's when you could make a change. But otherwise, no, you would need to cancel the shipment, for example, and fix that mistake if that's what we're talking about. And the last question here that I'm seeing on the screen is there a way to add different extra charges in a PO aside from freight, duties, taxes? The answer is absolutely. That function never changed. Every single adjustment or fee, discount, whatever that is for you, is 100% custom. You can call it what you want. You can add a percentage of whatever that is. You can allocate them, and the list goes on. But to answer the question directly, you can absolutely customize any adjustments, in other words, discounts and fees on your Finale account. So the answer is yes to that. You can do that. So it looks like we're getting to the top of the hour, and that is actually the last question that I'm seeing. So the very last thing that I wanted to do is just thank everybody so much for their time and support. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and hang out with us. We're really excited about these new screens, and it sounds like a lot of the other customers that were on this call and all the customers that provided us feedback all along the way are really excited about this as well. So again, absolutely appreciate everybody's time here, and we will see you in the next webinar. Thank you so much, everybody. And I really hope everybody enjoys the rest of the day, enjoys the holidays, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much.